Welcome to the channel. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Community Report 32 for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. This was released on the 15th of August 2021, if you're watching this in the future. And I've had a very quick read through, and there's some very interesting changes in this report. Some of you are going to love them, some of you are going to hate them. And there's one new feature which they're proposing, which I think could substantially change the game. Anyway, let's just get straight into it. It says, "Greetings, dear comrades of the Soviet Republic. Another 2 weeks has passed in our lives and development process, and we are more experienced and have latest ideas to work on. Well, with some progress we have made in life and work. We are focusing on some improvements and tweaks besides some exciting new stuff which will come later into the game, but we want to share with you what is going on to be changed in upcoming 0.8.5x update. Let's us speak first about tweaks we have made. We're going to change the mechanics how 21 plus older citizens living with their parents behave. Currently, they can relocate to any free residence in walking distance of their parents' residence. In upcoming update, they will be able to relocate to any free residence in the whole map." Interesting. But they will prefer free flats in walking distance and areas of lower unemployment. This will help to distribute the young working generation automatically throughout your whole republic and will lower escapes. The next thing we decided to tweak is the income from tourism. We lowered it to by 70%, and it means you will not be so profitable and lucrative as it is now. You may expect more changes in the future though, because we need more research to balance it, so take it as still work in progress. Now, this is a very interesting paragraph. Now, I do really like the idea, the fact that the over 21s will distribute across the map. This is a mechanic that's very similar to students in halls of residence. When they complete their education, they distribute across the map. Now, the downside of this is the fact that if you're building up a settlement and a location and you're not really ready for people to move in, you could have a problem with the fact that the over 21s will start moving in before you are ready to let them, say, take up residence, say like you haven't built the heating or something like that. So there's a possible downside of that, and it may mean that we may have to think a little bit more about how you build up new cities, especially if the winter is coming. Now, I will go on to say that I do like the idea, the fact that they have lowered the income from tourism because it was massively OP and open to abuse. And I do like that, because there are times, like in my current Seven Crosses series, where I think that I would like to introduce a bit of tourism, but at the same time, I just didn't want it to be a cash cow making piles and piles of money. It was more like I'd like to bring the tourism in as part of the aesthetic of the city. So I do like these changes, although I will have to think a bit more carefully about how I build up cities in the future. So moving on to the next paragraph, it says, "Next thing we adjusted was the loading of vehicles onto a train. We raised the limit from 15% to 50%. Which means that if a train is waiting to load in a station, the station can load a certain amount of cargo, but it loads only 40%. It will be counted as there is not enough to load. It is. And if it has no wait until loaded ticked, it will leave the station. This can be subject to change in future too. We also made fire vehicles able to overtake trolley buses without power and remove the ability of a train to load through turned off conveyor engines. There will be a lot more, and we will release a change log with the update to inform you about the changes." Not 100% what that actually means, to be honest. I mean, yeah, the fire engines overtaking disabled trolley buses makes sense, because the trolley bus would be effectively blocking the road. The ability of a train to load through, I think that's assumed that with say a gravel loading bay, that the train can still load even though you've turned off the conveyor engine. So that makes sense. The bit above about the 15 and 50%, I'm not exactly sure what they're getting at. If any of you know what that actually means, feel free to chuck it in the comments. Now, moving down, we've got a nice picture here, and I think this makes sense as I come down, and this is something that I am really excited about, is what it looks like we're actually going to get a proper underground metro system. And now let us talk about something we've never mentioned before, because it is new stuff we started to think more about only recently. We want to add underground train network to the game. It was one of the options the underground mode can offer to us in the future, but we have only a few ideas and new graphical content for this feature now. It should be a system of tunnels where you will have stations with above ground and underground parts, then other stations with only underground parts, and the only way how to get into them will be through underpasses. Next, it would have a special type of train which would be able to travel only in tunnels or special fenced above ground track, which would not be possible to cross by any other infrastructure and would serve as a connection to the underground system. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Let's move down again. So what they're proposing is to build a underground metro system. Have to admit, I do really like this idea, especially if you're building a major city, because one of the problems you have at the moment is that when the city gets to a certain size, you can use trains, but it doesn't really fit. And I really like the idea of an underground system, and it looks very much like it could be an underground and an overground system. But it's going to be very interesting to see how this develops. Let's just move down here. It says requires time to solve some issues like how to place signals, power the network, or if to go with a single directional network only. My recommendation would be a single directional network with a train going one way in each tunnel, which is very much the way that many underground systems work. Although they could produce a section which is effectively two tunnels joined together, which would be a two-way track. We hope we would be able to make it work, but we would appreciate some suggestions and advice from people who may have some understanding about underground networks. We know we do not have any underground networks in Slovakia, and the closest underground is in Vienna, Budapest and Prague. If you have any ideas of what you think they may be useful, can you create a thread in the stream forum to share with the discussion with them? Now, I'll be honest, I'm not an expert on underground systems. I mean, in the UK, the big underground system is in London, which is pretty extensive, and most of it is actually deep tunnels with a crossing, and as I already mentioned, most of it tends to be one-way tunnels, although there are above ground sections which are effectively run like normal train stations. In fact, there are stations in certain parts of London where the underground actually shares the same station as a railway station. So effectively, once it goes above ground, it becomes a local rail network, which I think they could do. My main concern with this, considering the way I play, would be how would you build these manually? I mean, you'd have to have similar to the airports, what you'd need is an underground construction crew to build the underground tunnels and above ground tunnels. That would be an interesting concept, though it could work. I mean, I suppose in some ways the trains can be delivered to the underground network. Never really thought about how London Underground deliver their trains. They must put them in some way with connecting tunnels. Anyway, let's just read the bottom features. The underground feature is a matter of further future though, as we are currently working on the GUI update on 0.8.5x, which will release in the next few weeks, and after that we will be fully concentrating on the police update, which will come after that. Enjoy the rest of the summer and stay tuned for the next report. So the underground is very much a long-term project, and I think what they're really looking for is input from the community. And if anyone does understand underground networks, I think the devs will very much appreciate that input. And it looks very much like we're going to get the new GUI in the next couple of weeks, which I must admit I'm really looking forward to, because I'm having seen the new format, and when I'm playing now I kind of think, oh, wish I had this operational. So I'm looking forward to that GUI update. And of course the next big update will be the policing update. They're still a little bit reticent about way that's going to work, but I suppose that's the way it goes. I think this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. Any opinions, observations, feel free to chuck them in the comments in the video, and we'll have a little bit of a discussion. But until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.